Mike McCool here. I'm in the Royal Examiner studio this morning, and with me is Dr. Sherri Yoder. Dr.
Morning.
Sherri is, it always makes me look good when I bring somebody else in here that's cheerful and exciting. If you're familiar at all with Dr. Sherri and the work she's done in our community over the many years, let's just say 2 or 3, it makes you...
Well, actually, I was just thinking about that this morning. I've been here since I moved here in 2012.
Seems longer than that.
It does seem longer.
It does.
Yeah.
I know, but she's been around. She's done a lot of things.
Yeah.
And we've crossed paths many times. But our associate, Michael Graham, has called me up and says, "Oh, Sherri's wrote a new book. You've got to have her in and talk to her about it." And
he's funny.
And tell me how you know Michael.
So we, Mr. Graham and I are dog park friends, and we, his dog is Digby, and mine are Leia and Luca, and we walk that park every morning at 7:30 with a whole crew of us. So
yeah, there's a lot of people down there to utilize that thing. It's a great kind of like some of the things you talk about in your book, but it's kind of a relief of.
It's fantastic.
It is a great little. Reducer here. So you have this new book. I'm going to hold it up, and Mark is going to zoom in on the cover here to get a nice picture of it. It's got a nice... You got that, Mark? Can you see it? All right. The title of this book is Breakup, Breakthroughs.
Yeah.
It feels good, too.
Thank you.
I like to feel very feminine. I told her, I said, this book is so feminine. She said, well, that's my target market.
That's right.
But, you know...
That's my target reader, yeah.
Oh, excuse me, yeah.
My
market
reader.
is the... Yeah.
Right. My readers are real people with souls and hearts, and that's my market.
So, first of all, tell us what you're up to now.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about your book.
Sure. So, now I am hosting a podcast. I'm writing and I'm speaking still, and I'm doing a little bit of coaching individually. I gave up my license to practice clinical psych a couple years ago, and just decided that I wanted to take things in a direction where I could help women focus on what's right with them as opposed to what's wrong with them.
Well, that's always the best to accentuate the positive.
Yeah.
It goes a lot farther, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We dwell on the negative so much in this country or this world as people, and we don't ever seem to learn that lesson.
No. Well, and the mistaken message is that there is something wrong with you. Well, there's not, because you're not supposed to be like everybody else. I'm not supposed to be like you. You're not supposed to be like me. We're supposed to have different qualities. We're supposed to have different things that we offer the world. And too much of society tells us that we're supposed to conform and look the same and be the same. And if we don't, then we're somehow deficient.
I was thinking, I was watching some 70s movies. We were all the same in the 70s. We all dressed the same, looked the same, haircuts were the same.
Bell bottoms? Was that a thing of the 70s?
I brought that up.
I was too little then, Mike.
Yes, but when you say that, we have to conform.
Yeah.
It is amazing how we do conform. We don't think of it that we're conforming,
right?
But we do, don't we?
Yeah, we absolutely do. And then it becomes, that's why we compare ourselves to one another. And I can't speak for the opposite sex, but women, it's a blight on the landscape of our thoughts, because we're constantly looking at one another and comparing ourselves to one another, not just physical characteristics, but, from the outside, everything in somebody else seems to be so perfect. And we make the mistake of comparing the worst of ourselves to really what we perceive as the best of somebody else. And the two are incomparable, but it drives us crazy. And so then we start to suffer in our thought worlds.
I know. Can't speak for the opposite sex.
Yeah.
You like how I segue there, but it always says that women that dress nicely, they don't dress for the opposite sex. Right. They dress for other women in a way.
Interesting.
They're seeing, like they're comparing themselves to other people. So you don't care what I think of. You just want to make sure that your peers think you look good.
Well, and I'll take you one further. I'll take that bet and raise it. That actually, I think that most women, the great thing about like our thought worlds is the two-way street between reality and what goes on in our minds. So if we're not feeling particularly good about ourselves, if we dress up and, do our hair and makeup and get dressed in something nice, that's typically for us. We
Sure.
typically do that for us, but it actually boosts us. It boosts those feel-good chemicals in the brain.
It does.
Conversely, if I'm not feeling so good and I stay in my yoga pants and my t-shirt
Sure.
and I, slap my hair back and don't really make that effort of self-care, of nurturing myself, then my thoughts are going to deteriorate as well. So
Years ago when I had more of a telephone calling bank and guys would come in, you work in the phones, they have blue jeans and t-shirts on, and I tried to test, I made them wear a necktie.
yeah.
And just putting the necktie on a pair of blue jeans and a t-shirt,
yes.
the sales went up.
Yeah.
So
Right.
there is an expectation
Yeah.
of maybe, but I swore off ties now. But, but
Is that a post-COVID thing?
Yeah,
or?
well, no, that's a pre-COVID.
That's
thing.
a long time ago thing.
People, I go to a meeting, they'll say, "Well, how do we meet? How do we know we have met before?" And I said, "Well, how will I find you?" I said, "I'll be the only guy not wearing a tie."
Not wearing a tie. Yeah.
Of course, now I show up, no one's wearing a tie.
Well, I think we just, if we can focus on taking care of ourselves for the sake of taking care of ourselves because we matter, everything else falls into place. But if we focus on taking care of ourselves for the sake of somebody else, we are never satisfied. Ever.
Right, never, no. So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So it says breakup breakthroughs.
Yeah, speaking of being dressed up, it's kind of a dressy book, isn't it?
It is very nice.
It's fun.
Asking and answering the hard questions so you can thrive in the trauma of a relationship breakup.
Yeah.
They say, what do they say about divorces? We have a 50-some%.
Yeah, I think it's about 55 to 58% now.
So that's a breakup.
It is a breakup.
It's a major breakup.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this book is really it's targeted to women, and it's really for any woman who's gone through any type of a breakup.
And if you're a man and you want to know about women,
Maybe. This is not going to give you the secrets, though, actually, This book is intended to reveal to women who they already are. Not who they need to be, but to reveal who they already are so that they can value that and nurture it and put that first above any relationship. I talk a little bit in the book about how historically and societally we encourage people to partner and procreate and to build these families and to build these empires with their families and have a legacy of children. And the focus is all on partnership from a very young age, a very young age. And, who are you going to get married? People talk about, they're postponing marriage so that they can focus on their career because it seems like that's always the goal. And I think in doing that, we lose sight of knowing who we are, discovering who we are. I'm in awe of people like my own parents who met when they were in their teenage years in high school and they're still happily married, and very happily. I don't say that lightly. I think that's the exception. I don't think that's the rule.
I don't know. I've been married 49 years.
Well, good for you. Good. Well, I think you're an exception. Think about that. If the majority
My wife
of people
must be a saint. Is that what you're
Right.
thinking that, aren't
Right,
you? Come
yeah.
on now, you're thinking it.
No. I'm thinking it takes two to tango.
It does.
It does. But yeah, I think that we need to learn to focus on who we are and value who we are because otherwise we don't know who's worthy of us. If we don't know who we are, if we don't value who we are, then we just give ourselves to anybody.
Mm-hmm. And you see that a lot in relationships, especially people that have relationships on top of over and over and over again. And it's like they select the same people to partner with.
Yeah. Yeah. So this...
I'm playing Dr. Phil here now,
No, this is really good. So this book was birthed from my own breakup experience. And I don't talk, it's not like I tell people it's not like a dish this tell-all book about my ex. It's about me. And it's about the things that I've learned about myself by asking and answering those hard questions. Because I don't want to be in a position where I would get out of one relationship that's very serious and hop into another one without knowing what's going on with me. What do I need to learn about myself? How can I thrive? Because that's what thrive means.
Sure.
It means to learn about yourself, to grow, to flourish. And I wanted to do that. So I've spent the last 10 months doing that, learning about myself. And that can take you into a really dark place.
It can.
It can take you into a really dark place, but it takes you into a place of breakthrough too. And so the book is composed of 10 questions that I've asked myself. And I encourage the reader to ask themselves too, to understand who they are coming out of the relationship. Who were they in the relationship? Did they like that person?
Sure.
What, was that
Does it
person?
feel like an obligation?
Yeah.
Some people feel like they have to always be in a relationship. They just can't be by themselves. Alone. They feel alone and not realize they got family, friends, and acquaintances and jobs and all sorts of interesting things going on in their life, but somehow they migrate to that.
Well, and I'll tell you why. Because we're a society of pairings, of couples, of partners. And so when you go out to eat, you don't see a restaurant filled with one person sitting at each table. And I know we're COVID now and all that, but think about in a restaurant, you see partners, you see pairs.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's presented to us at every turn.
It's a social activity now. It's not to get nourishment.
Right.
We go out to eat for strictly social.
Yeah. Yeah. So it makes sense. It's not a character flaw to go from one relationship to the next to the next. It's what our tendency is, because to be alone is very painful.
Sure.
Because then you have to ask this stuff.
Sure.
that doesn't feel so good sometimes.
You can have, I think sometimes maybe women have a problem with they have plenty of girlfriends.
Yeah.
But they have very few male friends outside of a relationship, so to speak, and they think that they can't have male friends. They can.
Yeah, you can, and I think that that varies across people.
Sure.
Based on who you are and what your needs are. But the reason that I decided to share my story, Mike, through the form of a book, is because I wanted to share some of the rawest places that were revealed to me as I was doing this work in the alone spaces.
Sure.
And let other women know who might be thinking the same thing but have never verbalized it. Like, that's legit. That's okay. It's okay to think that. It's okay to feel that. And here's what matters. What do you do with that?
Right.
How do you grow from that? So that was the impetus for the book.
What's the happy ending takeaway of your book?
Happy ending takeaway.
What's in the last chapter?
Well,
I have to read ahead. That's what I do. I always go to the last of the book and see what there's an epilogue.
There is it. So the book, it's kind of sandwiched between two letters. One letter is to the reader specifically, and it basically just is from my heart to theirs about where my journey began in this. And then the end is where the journey takes off from there, where it continues, really. And there's no chapters. There's sections. It's divided by questions.
Right.
Okay, so there's 10 questions for people to work through. The other thing, and I'm going to answer your question, Mike, I promise. But the other thing about the book is that it's a combination between a conceptual book, a memoir of my own, and a self-discovery journal. So there's places in there to actually do the work that I am recommending that you do. So that's something very valuable. Originally, I was going to do it in 2 separate books, but I thought, who wants to carry around 2 separate things?
No.
So we did
what
one.
you do is you print one book facing this way, and you turn it upside down, and you split the sections, and you have the other book starting on this side, so they only have one book, but it's 2 books, one's upside down and the other.
Like a choose your own adventure.
Choose your own adventure.
I just totally dated myself there. So, but to tell you what the happy ending is, I don't know that there's a happy ending. I think happy ending for me is happy journey and happy moment by moment. And the way that I have discovered to be happy in each moment is to embrace the fact that thriving, to live fully, to live abundantly means to face pain. It doesn't mean to be free from pain. It means to take it, learn from it, and grow from it, grow through it. And so the end, really, all of these breakthroughs lead up to this kind of popular phrase that is runs across social media and memes and things like that, and that's love yourself. And I talk about what that really means. What does that really mean? Because a lot of people will talk about self-care, making sure you're taking time for yourself, making sure you're doing this. But to me, loving yourself runs so much deeper than that. And it has to start with discovering who you are and who you are not. Because when you know those two things, everybody else in your life will too. And the people that will value that will come to you. And the people that won't value that will leave you. And that's what you want.
Yeah, I call that decluttering, maybe.
Decluttering. Sure, that's a clinical way to put it.
In a way, we are clutter. We're clutter people, and relationships are a big clutter.
They can be.
Can be very.
If we're constantly collecting as opposed to selecting.
Selecting, exactly right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. I always say, you got clutter like in your household, just take a picture of that stuff you have and set that on your mantle and get rid of the junk, and when you miss it, just look at the picture.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, like you say, in today's world, it's not about just thriving to survive, but we need to thrive, instead of survive. And I think that's a phrase I use a lot, and it's true.
Yeah.
We need to do that.
Yeah.
It's good that you've come up with some breakthroughs. It's kind of like the aha moment. Is that what this...
Yes, breakthrough is another word for aha moments. For me, it was breakthrough because I was in kind of these murky, dark, lonely spaces.
And all of a sudden...
where I was doing the work, and then it would just like, I'd have this experience of freedom, like, wow. That's brilliant. That's amazing. I need to share that.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you one that has to like it happened to me last night at 2:00 in the morning? I woke up and had this thought. I had to get my phone and and send myself an email message so I wouldn't forget, because I would forgot. Then I forgot to look at the email message. But I will later today. But I did. I had this clear vision in my brain. That's your subconscious working overtime,
Absolutely.
We need to let our subconscious do more. We have the answer within.
Pay attention to it. Listen to it.
We have the answer within. We just need to know. We got to listen and listen.
Not cloud it with the clutter.
Exactly. Well, it sounds like it's a very interesting read.
It is. Well, it's a life-changing read, in my opinion.
If you go into it with the right attitude, they'll have to come up with their own answers.
That's the thing. In comparison, that's great, because when I was doing a little bit of research about other books that people had written on breakups and divorce and things like that, I found a lot of, and I'm not disparaging the idea, but I found a lot of things like how to get over your ex in 37 days, or how to do this in 5 easy steps. And I quickly dispel those myths. There is no perfect process. There is no perfect timeline. And sometimes that's unpalatable. Sometimes people want the answers.
Well, we're used to that 60 minutes. The murders are solved and everybody's in jail at the end of 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of set up our culture now. Is
the end of 60 minutes,
it's television. That's what we want.
We want the instant fix.
It's like we watch the Hallmark Christmas movies, and, I got out of a breakup and I meet the Prince Charming at the ski lodge.
And there's the, closeout swelling music at the end. Yeah. Well, but
we watch them anyway.
But this book really, it's an invitation to women to actually engage what I believe is the ultimate act of self-love. And that's doing the hard work in the alone spaces. If you really want to love yourself, go there. Like, this book helps you go there, and it lets you know you're not alone while you're there, too.
Well, and a thought that comes to my mind when you say that, it may against what you preach, but until you love yourself, you can't love someone else.
Nor can anyone love you.
Oh, good you added to that. But that's true. I mean, we have to know ourselves.
Yes.
And it's so important, and our life doesn't just revolve around our partner.
Right.
It's a shared thing. Like you said, I always said relationships are not 50-50, they're 100-100. Mm-hmm. You have to work at these things.
Absolutely.
And you have to work at...
But you can't give 100 if you don't know 100.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Know yourself. Well, it sounds like you've got some thought-provoking questions that people need to read and to really go in with the right attitude of, let's think about these things and address them. And tell us about your podcast, where we can find these.
Yeah, so my podcast is called Thriving Thoughts with Dr. Sherri, and it's available on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts. And it's the third season launches August 5th, so a week from now. And I now have listenership on 6 continents, Mike. 6 continents.
You got to get some of them scientists down in Antarctica to.
Yes.
You can send a few emails down there and tell them to tune in.
Yeah.
Then you can say 7 continents.
Yeah, that's what I said, Like, you guys know anybody in Antarctica? Let's,
send me an
get them
email,
on
right?
board. I need that 7th continent.
That's right.
But it's
Be like Metallica. Oh, sorry. Off the topic here.
Off top. That's okay. I'll bring you back, Mike. So the podcast is specifically for women, and it's really having conversations. I interview other women. And then I sometimes offer some shorter episodes by myself to offer encouragement. But it's interviewing women to ask them how they thrive in the thick of something. So if they're in the thick of relationship problems, business problems, family problems, problems with adult kids, with elderly parents, whatever it is, there is an opportunity to thrive. There's an opportunity to grow and purpose your pain. And so that's what the podcast is about. And it's been wildly encouraging, and I've heard some great feedback from people. So yeah, continuing August 5th.
All right. Well, we'll put that information
in
the bottom of the story here so they can get on the link to check you all out. Appreciate that. So it sounds like, though, with this podcast thing going, you're going to have a second book. Part 2?
Well, it won't be part 2 of Breakup Breakthroughs, but it will be, the next book is called Little Lies, Big Truths.
See, she's already got one in the works.
I do.
I was thinking you would do the breakup. Now that we've gone through the breakup, now we have the build-up.
Yeah. Well, okay, so a couple... The build-up to what, though, Mike?
Well, hey,
right.
You're the expert on that. So.
Well, the build-up to the breakthrough, and that's what you have from the book. So I'm doing a couple of different things with Breakup Breakthroughs before I move on to the Little Lies, Big Truths. So we've got the paperback version. The Kindle version is live now, but I haven't really officially announced it yet because this is part workbook too.
Sure.
I'm making a workbook only companion that can be purchased along with the Kindle version. And then in about a month, I will have the Audible offering for this book
great.
too. So, yeah.
Well, you're a busy woman.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you coming in talking to us.
I appreciate the invitation.
And
Thank you.
you're, you can thank Michael for that.
We'll thank him tomorrow morning at the dog park. Yeah.
No, Michael's a great guy.
Yeah.
But again, he, and I've known you quite a long time.
Yeah.
And, I just don't run in the circles of,
Yeah. You can come to the dog park anytime.
Oh, I tell you.
Boy, I'm telling you, it could be a show all of its own. You should have.
They're all dressed
you should have
up
us
and they have
filmed.
their dogs prance around and.
There's a little single path that goes down the length of the park where all the humans walk and the dogs follow alongside of us.
Yes,
So.
I know. Okay. Again, thanks a lot,
Thanks,
Sherri,
Mike.
for coming in, and please come back in a while especially when you get your next book, and we'll talk about that one.
Yeah.
Or something that happens in the middle. If you get another breakthrough, come back and we'll talk about it.
Absolutely. Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
So, Breakup Breakthroughs, this book you can get right now on Amazon.
Well,
All you have to do is search it, but I'm sure Mike will include the links.
I will include the link for that.
Yeah.
We don't have it down at the the Royal Oak Bookstore.
I have not put it down
You
there.
need to go down there because Tammy and all those lovely ladies down there, they got every book. And so, we like to shop local, support.
And I should also give it to Samuel's Public Library.
There you go.
Excellent idea.
Are you going to give me an autographed copy of this?
I absolutely will. But this
Okay.
is not yours, but I will bring you one.
Okay. All right. Thanks again, Sherri.
Thank
for
you,
coming in.
Mike.
Appreciate it.